What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and welcome back to another Modern video. And today I'm going to be going over my kind of wish list that I want to see from Modern in 2023. Last year was definitely a crazy year with the Yorian bannings and just companions being totally nerfed and neutered. Last year, it's been crazy. It was a huge year for Magic in general, the Modern format especially. And I guess I just wanted to go over some thoughts and some ideas and things like that I had for 2023, some things I would like to see happen, and just kind of being more aggressive towards the modern format when it comes to adding cards, changing things, and so on and so forth. So before I get into that, I would appreciate it that if you enjoyed this video or you like my content, anything like that, and you are not already subscribed to my channel, please do so and ring the notification bell as well so you know when I post videos. Go ahead, there's links in the description to my Twitch channel, so when I start streaming, you'll know when I go live, and a link to the Discord server that I run to talk about Magic and stuff like that, because I just absolutely love talking about Magic and going over ideas and things like that. So if any of that interests you, please be sure to follow the appropriate links, etc., so on and so forth. So now, 2023, I think this is going to be a huge year for Modern as we kind of get our first full year, I believe our first full year in the new competitive system with the RCQs and qualifying for Pro Tours and things like that. And hopefully with more ideas and things like that kind of fleshed out on how things are going to work. So for 2023, knowing that we're going to have a lot of like these organized play things going on, I want to see Modern get bold. I want to see cards getting unbanned, different cards getting banned, and just trying to thin out the ban list as much as possible while also getting rid of like problematic cards. So for me, these are some cards that I think can be unbanned in no particular order. I'm just going to flash them up right now, if I'm smart enough to edit this the way I would want to. As you can see, I have Glimpse of Nature, Splinter Twin, Blazing Shoal, Deathrite Shaman, and possibly the Artifact lands. I'm not really married to that idea necessarily, but the rest of these cards I think definitely at a base level are worth trying. I'm not saying that these cards can be unbanned and they'll be totally fine, but I think these are some of the safer cards to unban. Splinter Twin being more of like a fan favorite. I don't think, the days of like turn three play my Pestermite or Deceiver Exarch into turn 4, play a Splinter Twin, and do that thing is not going to be very good. While it does have some more tools, with Modern Horizons 2, and the cards from like the new standard sets that we have, probably make the deck a little bit different and can transform it. It's definitely not going to be like the Splinter Twin decks that we were used to seeing in the past. So it'll be kind of nice to kind of see where that deck the evolution of that deck comes from. In the worst case, kind of like what they did with like Golgari Grave Troll and things like that, it can just get rebanned, which is kind of my idea for some of the other ones. I think Deathrite Shaman, while a very powerful one-drop creature, don't get me wrong, definitely just being like an upgraded mana dork that needs lands in graveyards to be a mana dork and can occasionally, kill your opponent by getting to exile sorceries from their graveyard or even your graveyard, and then getting to eat creatures like gain life. It's okay. I think it's definitely a card that's like worth trying. And while maybe that is like a controversial pick in and of itself, I also think it's very much worth trying with all the super efficient removal that we have in the format. If it's just going to be another win condition for like a Jund deck and things like that, especially for mid-range decks that kind of struggle to actually win games because there's decks that are just either going over top of them, running straight through them, or just have like a way to attack them that other decks can't necessarily attack, like the mid-range deck. So I think that's fine. If Infect wants to play some very high-costed red cards in their deck to Blazing Shoal Infect people, by all means go for it. I would definitely think that there's enough green pump spells and things like that printed that are just so much better than Blazing Shoal plus playing like Progenitus and Dragonstorm in your deck that this card's probably fine just to take off the ban list and maybe have someone find some unique way of breaking it that way. Aside from that, I think that's probably like the safest card on the list altogether. Glimpse of Nature, there's already a card that was printed in, I think it was one of the Innistrad sets that kind of does the same thing, but for 2 mana in green and white colors. I think Glimpse of Nature, kind of gives elves something to like kind of lean into and play, is just like my initial, base level thought. Elves is definitely a deck that, gets a lot of love and a lot of hate as well. And I think Glimpse of Nature is just kind of an okay card. I mean, like, it definitely does help out the deck a lot, but I don't know if it propels it into like tier 1 status, but definitely I think worth playing. And if Elves is like a good deck in the format or even a popular deck in the format, whatever, I think that's okay. It's better than some of the other decks that were allowed to be, top tier for a very long time and then just absolutely not messed with. So I would definitely like to see Glimpse of Nature make a comeback. There's definitely some other decks that could use Glimpse of Nature to good effect, but it would be a lot of fun to kind of see what that card could do in the modern format. Uh, Lastly, the artifact lands. Again, not necessarily married to the idea of these cards. There is obviously some sideboard cards that kind of mess with these, mainly like the Brothers War. There's like the destroys all artifacts, I think, would convert a mana cost 3 or less. You definitely have Crime and Punishment that Yawgmoth players and some other green black decks are playing in their sideboard that would end up getting rid of these. That would also kind of mess with like rhinos and stuff like that. Uh, Definitely think these might be okay to bring out, but I'm not going to be a hill that I will die on to unban them. Or really like any of these cards for that matter. I just think that these cards are probably the safest slash most fun cards to unban that I think wouldn't absolutely decimate the format if they were at their absolute most powerful, just given the amount of efficiency that is in the format. Next, I have two cards that I would definitely want to try. I think they would just be super neat, but they probably won't be unbanned, especially because there's probably another 2 mana sorcery that I should probably put up here that will get banned, and that's Ponder and Preordain. Just good 1 mana cantrips. Preordain just basically the inverse of Serum Visions, and Serum Visions doesn't see play. Obviously, Preordain is better than Serum Visions, but definitely a card nonetheless that I would definitely want to play with. A Ponder probably being the most interesting one, just because I like the play patterns of Ponder. It definitely gives like that legacy feel, but not so powerful that I think it would definitely be a dominating draw spell, but it's not like an end the game one, at least in my opinion. So definitely cards that will probably never see the light of day in modern, but a boy can dream. Just like all the Splinter Twin players. Finally, cards that I would want banned in the modern format would be these three here. I would definitely want Ragavan, Urza Saga, and Omnath to at least be considered on the chopping block. Now, Ragavan definitely kind of like warps the format around it, even though it doesn't feel like it. Like the best deck in the format is a Ragavan deck, but definitely is, more of like a Murktide deck. It's not called Blue Red Ragavan, it's called Blue Red Murktide, but definitely when your opponent is just aiming burn spells and removal at Ragavan and Ledger Shudders and things like that, definitely helps clear the way for Murktide, and especially with how the deck is set up to use Murktide to its full advantage, definitely benefits from having Ragavan in the deck. So I would definitely like to see the Monkey go and just kind of see where the format like evolves from there. Urza Saga just gives a lot of decks like hammers, a lot of resiliency, makes a lot of other like weird artifact decks, very powerful when you can just make 2 tokens, get a Shadow Spear, and then just, hit for 6, 7, 8 points of damage and have these, 12, 14, 16 point life swings. While that's not necessarily like busted, it does make it very hard for aggro decks to survive if they're not able to, essentially beat you on turn 3 or turn 4 of the game, which very few decks are able to actually do in a fair way. Anyway, on Mathlogus Creation, I just absolutely hate playing against this card. Definitely is a death knell to aggro decks in the same way that Urza Saga is, where if your opponent just knows how to play Omnath, which more than likely they do, like the 4 color control decks and things like that, are not decks that you should just pick up because you're bored, but definitely stunts a lot of growth from like the more aggressive decks in the format that forces them to be super all in, hyper aggressive, where like if you're not dead on turn 3, I'm probably losing the game. And overall just being super annoying of a card, period. And I just want to see it gone. We got rid of Yori, and that was like the first step. And while this card and the archetype that it mainly is played in isn't necessarily dominating the format, I just hate the fact that decks like that are able to exist and not really get punished for being that way. So I am all for, just chopping off Omnath at the knees and leaving it at that. As far as like my expectations for modern past, bannings, unbannings, etc., I would definitely like to see modern be the dominant format for RCQs and competitive events. Definitely, if Pioneer is not going to get touched, where we're just gonna have like Mono Green Devotion, you're gonna have red black mid range, and you're gonna kind of have like everything else in there. I guess you can maybe even include Greasefang, but definitely some more like toxic play patterns and things like that happening. I think you want modern to be kind of like the shining light for competitive diversity and for competitive events, simply for the fact that the format is diverse. And while you have, the most popular deck, people that believe that are the best decks, and you have some of your toxic decks in the format, Modern has and probably will always be for a while um, one of the formats where any given deck has a chance of winning the tournament, and it's not going to be down to, two or three different decks, just trying to knock each other off and hope that they can hang on just long enough to be the last one standing. So I would definitely love to see Modern be the forefront of competitive events going forward. And as like an antidote for Pioneer, hopefully Pioneer ends up getting the justice it deserves as an eternal format, because the format itself is really sweet. And I would love to see it right next to Modern as being two very diverse metagames that are carefully monitored and controlled and are easy for players to get into and can basically play whatever deck you want and find success as long as you're willing to commit to it. So that is my wish list for Modern in 2023. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Of course, leave in the comments below what you want to see from Modern or just from competitive Magic in 2023. I'm not necessarily picky. I just think it's interesting to kind of speculate and see kind of the wish list people have for the format. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, consider subscribing, ring the notification bell. Go down to the description and follow me on Twitch. You can find the link in the description down there. And of course, the link to the Discord server that I have as well to talk about Magic and maybe tell me why I'm wrong about unbanning Deathrite Shaman and Splitter Twin. I would definitely absolutely love to hear that. So that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the next one.